Welcome to FFRF's Ask an Atheist on Facebook Live. I'm Dan Barker. I'm co-president of the Freedom from Religion Foundation in Madison, Wisconsin. And I am joined today by Chris Line, who is one of the hard-working attorneys at the Freedom from Religion Foundation, to talk about some recent court victories.
Yeah, and I'm also going to tell you about a personal journey I've been on at the same time that these court victories have been, around the same time.
A personal victory?
Yeah, my personal thing. Yeah.
The correspondent. Well, that'll be interesting. So if you're watching the show and you have any questions for me or for Chris about any topic, any family-friendly topic, you can ask them in the Facebook comments that you see there on the screen, or you can send an email to askanatheist@ffrf.org. So, Chris, before we talk about some of FFRF's current, we have some legal victories and some non-legal
victories, litigation victories, and then non-litigation
litigation
victories.
And non-litigation victories that have spanned a number of years, right? Like some of them go like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, they all. One of the cases that we won was being talked about before I even started interning here. That was more than 7 years ago.
Wow.
And then the other case I worked on as an intern, so it'd be over 5 years ago.
So I remember when you first came here to intern, and then it was really nice that we were able to then keep you on as an attorney. Yep. But during that span of time, you have your own personal victory to report.
Yeah, so I should also just note today is my 5-year anniversary as an attorney at the Freedom from Religion Foundation. I've been around 7 years if you count the time I interned, but 5 years ago, June 1st, 2017, I came in for my first day as an attorney here. At the same time, I started my own personal journey. I realized I was finally ready to lose weight, to change my health habits.
That's a picture of you there in the blue shirt?
Yep, that was me when I was interning at FFRF.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that.
Yep, and then so that's a picture of me when I graduated. So that was me graduating from law school, and then, the next day after I became an attorney, I started working here. June 1st, that's the same day that I started my journey. I lost more than 200 pounds in the first 18 months after that, and then I just kept going, and I've maintained it to this day. After finishing law school, the pressure of law school and everything, and having that out of the way, having this job that I absolutely love at the Freedom from Religion Foundation, I was like, there's nothing left holding me back. I don't have any excuses anymore for why I'm carrying all this extra weight. And so I, started eating better. I made healthier choices. And I started exercising a lot, walking a lot, listening to audiobooks, podcasts, and running. Eventually, I took up running. I didn't mean to. FFRF kind of is involved in why I started running as well. In order to celebrate my achievements, my coworkers signed me up for a half marathon. So I never actually ran a marathon. I didn't run. I was a walker. But in order to prepare for that, I started running. I ran the half marathon, and then I just kept running after that.
Wow. Well, you're still a heavy hitter around here at FFRF in many ways. So
yeah, no, and I joke, the weight loss is maybe the one time where prayer and fasting can help you achieve a goal.
At least the fasting part of it, right?
Yeah. I'm not Orthodox though, so I do intermittent fasting, not the fasting.
So is that it basically? It's just exercise and fasting? Or is there any other treatment? Or?
Yeah, that's really it. I mean, I like most things in my life, I approach it from a very logical, scientific point of view. I just figured out, how it works, which is you take in calories and calories goes out. So everything you eat, you have a certain amount of calories you burn every day, and you just got to make sure that you're burning more calories than you take in, And that's
so there's there's no secret. It's just a lot of hard work, basically.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work. I mean, it's very simple. Some people would say easy. I think there's a difference. It's simple, but it's very hard, as we all know, because it's easy to say, oh, just eat less and exercise more. But it's the same thing as telling, say, someone who's addicted to smoking, well, you just stop smoking. That's the way to stop. There's a lot to it, especially mentally. But I just approached it scientifically. I said, what can work for me? And I think that's what people need to do is what works for them. So, for example, all my favorite foods, I kind of swap them for healthier options. Eat a lot of Halo Top ice cream. which has like a third of the calories of regular ice cream, but tastes just as good. You know, just really simple things like that that allow you to continue enjoying your life while, not taking as many calories.
How much time do you spend? You must spend hours.
I do, and that's the thing that works for me. You know, a lot of other people couldn't run or walk for hours a day, but I do. Typically, I'll run, 10, 15, maybe 20 miles a day. And, I happen to have the time for that. Obviously, if I had a wife and kids and all that, that's not a practical approach for some people, but that's why it's so personal. It's something you have to kind of figure out for yourself, using the tools you have. You have to kind of make that work.
So instead of sitting on the couch watching a TV show, as entertaining or informative as that might be, you can listen to podcasts and things and books, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the same way most people probably go home after a long day of work, make some dinner, sit on the couch and watch the news, watch TV. I go out for a run. I listen to podcasts, atheist podcasts, political podcasts, things like that keep me informed while I'm pursuing.
You listen to our radio show, Free Thought Radio?
I do. I listen to Free Thought Radio every week. It's in my rotation with a few other atheist shows and really a lot of shows because, like I said, I do it a lot, 2 to 3 hours a day. So I'm probably listening 20, 30 hours of podcasts a week. So
what about in the wintertime? Is it here in Wisconsin?
Yeah, no, in the winter, I still, as long as it's above like 5 degrees, I'll still get out and run. But after that, it's a little cold even with, proper attire. And if it's really icy or snowy out, I'll run on the treadmill, which I don't enjoy the treadmill as much, but you can pull your phone out and watch TV, so that adds a new entertainment element.
So when we hired you, we actually got less than we bargained for, didn't we?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
But you've been working hard. You and the other, how many, are there 9 attorneys now?
Yeah, I think 9.
Have been working nonstop, fielding complaints, mainly from members and community who complain to us.
Yep.
So congratulations on your victory, but let's talk about some of your legal victories now.
Yeah, it's a kind of coincidental here on my 5-year anniversary. We've got these a couple major court victories to report. So first, we can talk about Mercer County, which was a case that we took back. I believe we filed in 2017 on behalf of 2 parents.
West Virginia.
In West Virginia. The Mercer County Schools had a Bible in the schools program. So every school had Bible classes. And these Bible classes were not, literature classes or something of that effect, which you'd imagine they wouldn't be in an elementary school. These were Bible studies. And I think we've got a clip that can kind of talk a little bit more.
The school portion of that circle is provided by a program called Bible in the Schools.
Is it a religious course?
It's the Bible.
Is that a yes?
I would say it is the Bible. It doesn't teach one religion. It's not a Baptist Bible. It's not a Presbyterian Bible. It's the Bible. And it is God.
Created by volunteers in 1939, the program now provides more than 4,000 kids a weekly course of Bible study. Comments like these are part of what attracted the Freedom from Religion Foundation, a Wisconsin-based lobby for the separation of church and state. In a lawsuit filed jointly last month with Jane Doe, a mother of a Mercer County kindergartner who wishes to remain anonymous, the group accused the county of running Bible indoctrination classes that endorse the literal truth of the Bible.
If you want them to have a religious education, that burden's on you. That burden should not be on the school system.
Elizabeth Deal, like Jane Doe, believes the Mercer County program violates the rights of parents who wish to keep public school a secular place. She moved her daughter Sophie out of the school system after she was bullied for opting out.
They taunted her about it. They told her that she was going to hell, that I was going to hell, that her father was going to hell.
How did you feel when you heard that story?
It was very hurtful, of course, because she's my daughter and I don't want her to hurt.
In a statement, Mercer County Schools said the Bible is worthy of study for its literary and historic qualities. The question for the courts is whether it's actually being taught that way.
Yeah, and so as you saw from that clip was from 2017, so back when we first filed the case. The school, I think everyone knew what was going on, that this was a Bible study taking place in a public school, but they tried to then, once we filed the lawsuit, come across and say, oh, this, it's about literary stuff, or, we're teaching the Bible from that perspective. But it was clear from the materials that this was basically a Bible study for young children.
So
in
legally,
schools.
could a school teach literary? I mean, could they do it that way?
Yeah, and many high schools and things like that do, which I think is maybe an appropriate grade level to start talking about the Bible in a objective, non-religious sense. Obviously, no elementary school, no first grader is going to be able to have a conversation about the Bible that's not, going down the road of indoctrination. They're just not up to that level to have an intellectual discussion about it. And so any class for children that young is going to be indoctrination.
Well, because literary doesn't necessarily mean good and positive. There are many literary aspects of the Bible that you would not want to teach third graders.
So many things you wouldn't want to teach. And then, I think a lot of people point out to the few things that, there are stories in the Bible that are important to know, if you want to have a good understanding of literature. But that's not how this class was being taught, and that's not...
It's like a Sunday school class. Then,
exactly.
basically.
This was a Sunday school class. This was trying to indoctrinate kids. And as you saw from that clip, clearly everyone kind of knew what was going on, but the school tried to portray it. The school tried to portray what was going on. You can see they show like Adam and Eve. They talked about, Adam could ride down the back of a dinosaur. So they talk a lot about humans and dinosaurs living in just, that's another place where it became a problem, is it when it's conflicting with the scientific evidence, you're getting into
Looks like that
mythology.
tiger is about ready to have lunch, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you want to read more about this, you can go to the URL that we've got up on there.
ffrf.us/Mercer. Mercer. So that was 2017. Why did it take so long? And then basically, what ended up happening?
Yeah, so we filed the case in 2017. Pretty quickly, the school decided to stop having the Bible class. They stopped having it, and they were going to configure it to make it more appropriate. What I think they found while they were doing that is that there was no way to make this appropriate because the whole intention was to be a Bible school. And so we sued, and one of our plaintiffs dropped off because they said that these Bible classes weren't coming back. So we had to keep up with Elizabeth Deal as our plaintiff. And the school, even though they got rid of the Bible classes, there was nothing to stop them from bringing them back. So that's why this litigation continued for 5 years, even though they ended the Bible classes pretty quickly.
So we could have stopped at that point, but we decided we wanted a legal...
Exactly. When they said the Bible classes were done, we could have said, okay, cool, but there was nothing to stop them from bringing the Bible classes back the second we, ended the case. So we continued the fight, and then finally we were able to settle with the school recently in the past couple weeks here. We reached a settlement. The Bible classes won't be coming back. The school, through their insurance, is going to pay $225,000 to cover the attorney's fees for all of the work that we and our local attorneys there have put in. An amount that the school shouldn't have ever taken on. I mean, we wrote, before this all started, we wrote to the school and said, these Bible classes are illegal, you need to stop. And if they'd have just done that, it would have saved all that time and money and effort.
So a lot of that money went to the attorneys in West Virginia that we were working with.
Yes.
But some of it came back to FFRF?
Yep, just to compensate the time that we, like I said, that we were required to put in. Like that, it shouldn't have been, they should have been able to look and say, oh, we're violating the law, let's stop this. And they did not. Like I said, these Bible classes are going on for 75 years until these plaintiffs stepped forward, and FFRF was able to help them and these Bible classes. And now finally, the students of Mercer County are not going to be forced to take a Bible class.
So legally, they can't start it up again.
Yeah, the Bible class is over. Yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That's a good. And did they announce it like in West Virginia? Was there stories about it, or was there?
Yep, I think there was a little bit of coverage on the news that the case settled. I know at the time that the classes ended, obviously it had made the news, I think it was good. It was a good outcome.
So all of this effort and all this money and all this time, because somebody wants to preach fundamentalism to grade school kids. They can do it in their churches, and they can do it in their homes, and they can do it in the parks. But the public school, well, what did you tell the school about why it's wrong?
Well, it's just that, like Elizabeth Deal said in that clip, it's up to parents to decide whether their kids should learn about religion or not. And that's exactly why these Bible classes pop up in schools, is that people that want to push religion onto students, they're afraid of a parent like Elizabeth Deal who's going to not indoctrinate their child in Christianity. They're afraid. I think that this is a Good News Club and some of those other religious clubs, they admit that if a child doesn't, they use different terminology for it, but doesn't learn about Jesus by the time they're 14, the likelihood that they're going to be a Christian, drops dramatically, which makes sense. If you're not indoctrinated into religion, you don't tend to stumble upon it later in life. I mean, some people do, but that's typically not the course. So,
but those people are free to try to approach the non-religious families, but just not in the public schools, right?
Right, but that's not what they want. They realize there's, that's why the Good News Club, places like that, target schools, Gideon's, target schools because they know they've got all these students there.
Like a captive audience or a...
Yep, a captive audience. And when these classes were going on, it was, almost all the students participated. I think when Elizabeth Deal's child was there, they were one of two at one point, and at one point the only student, and they were going off to the computer lab or something like that, having to read a book alone. They didn't have alternative instruction available because they just expected everyone to take the Bible class. It was, rare for a student to not take the Bible class. This was just an expectation.
So what if all of the students and all the families wanted it in that public school? Then does majority rule?
No, I mean, that's exactly why we have the Constitution. That's why we have the Bill of Rights, is that, certain things are not to be determined by the majority. We have a majority of Christians in this country, so if that was what mattered, then they could declare us a Christian country, and that's completely antithetical to what America is about.
Or they could declare us a white country, or who knows what. They could declare anything that.
Exactly, and that's the problem. That's not who we are, and that's not who most of us want to be. Even amongst Christians, they don't want to force religion onto everyone. There's only this certain group of people that want to push their religion onto everyone and convert people to their religion.
So in this case, Elizabeth Deal was very public. She came forward. She was on national TV. We saw her on the national news. In your experience, you attorneys here, when people do contact us about a complaint happening in their local community, are they as brave as Elizabeth, or do they have to keep their heads down, or can they do it anonymously?
Yeah, of course. We keep all of our complainants anonymous, and that's what the majority of our complainants choose to do. And we go to the school, we lodge the complaint, and we never tell the school who they are. More and more, though, now we are seeing students stand up and make their complaints known.
The students themselves, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, in our most recent case, Cabo County Schools, 100 students walked out after a preacher had come into the school and preached.
Another West Virginia.
Yep, it's another West Virginia case. And yeah, in that case, many of our complainants were outspoken. We're doing interviews, talking to the news, going on different podcasts, YouTube channels, and I'm seeing that more and more. We're getting complaints, and then students are saying, not only am I telling you, FFRF, and asking for your help to resolve this, I'm going to rally my fellow students, and we're going to stand up to this. And FFRF is obviously very proud of all these students in these different school districts.
Well, that strengthens the case, because it's not just some outside Wisconsin group coming in. It's the students and the families themselves making that complaint.
Exactly, yes. And as we know, based on the statistics and the demographics, the younger generations are becoming less and less religious as time goes on. And I think that's a lot of why we're seeing it. Not only are we having more available plaintiffs and complainants because they're not religious, but because of the movement of less religion, they're feeling more comfortable. 40 years ago, maybe it would be the end of your life in society if you came out strongly against the local religion, but now kids are able to stand up for their beliefs and not have to be afraid of ostracization and all the things that.
So if you're a viewer, young person or not, who's seeing a violation in your community, complain, come out into the open. It makes a difference. What's another one? Another victory?
Yeah, so the other case that we had a victory in recently was Parkersburg, also in West Virginia. In Parkersburg, they have been doing the Lord's Prayer at their local city council meetings. And as I said before, that They've actually been doing it longer than I've even been interning here. I was looking back to my emails. I saw even before I started interning here 7 years ago, we were having discussions with our plaintiffs about the practice and what was going on. We finally filed suit in 2018 over that case. And then now, most recently, in the past couple of weeks here, we received a decision in our favor in the district court, permanently enjoining the city from reciting the Lord's Prayer at its council meetings.
So who was doing it? Were preachers, or was the council members themselves?
It's the council members themselves and everyone in attendance. That's what makes this so egregious. The council members would ask everyone to stand and join them, and so the entire room would recite the Lord's Prayer in unison. Very much, feeling like a church service or something like that.
What about a Jewish member or an atheist member of the community? They all had to participate in this thing.
Yeah,
right?
well, they didn't have to, but if they didn't participate, then they would be known, obviously. And I think we have a video clip of this too.
Charleston Federal Judge John Copenhaver says Parkersburg City Council's practice of opening every meeting with the Lord's Prayer wrapped the city in a single faith and violated a constitutional prohibition against favoring one religion over others. The judge issued a permanent injunction against the prayer recital in response to complaints from 2 local members of the Wisconsin-based Freedom From Religion Foundation. The foundation objected to the practice back in 2015 and brought the suit in 2018. Parkersburg's mayor says that the city will comply, not surprisingly, with federal Judge Copenhaver's order. He says it's going to be up to the city council to determine whether or not there'll be any kind of an appeal.
But I'm disappointed. I think my opinion is we'll certainly respect the judge's order. It'll be up to city council whether or not they wish to appeal it any further or what, if any, action they want to take. But I think the reality of it is they've been saying the Lord's Prayer at Parkersburg City Council meetings for the better part of 60 or 70 years, and it wasn't hurting anybody.
City Councilwoman Sharon Kuhl says it is a sad day for the United States and the city of Parkersburg.
I will always continue to fight for God to be in our country and for him to look over our city councils and our governments. That's the problem now. People have went away from God, and that's why the United States is in the shape that it is now.
City Councilwoman Wendy Tuck had a different reaction.
My position is that when I took office, I had to swear to uphold the Constitution. And when there's a dispute, our legal process is set up that the courts decide, and then you obey the Constitution. You follow the courts.
So she didn't actually say she agreed or not. She said when the court makes a decision, we follow the decision, which is America, right? Right.
Yeah, that's how things should be. And you saw in that clip there that she kind of, one of the first council member, kind of gave the game away and said, yeah, we're bringing God into the council. All these places, these city councils that try to have prayer, and the Greece decision, which is the Supreme Court decision that allows prayer in city council meetings. They try to argue, it's not really a religious thing. It's just a sort of a ceremony. We're just opening up the meeting, and then people like that are willing to, give the game away and say, no, actually, no, this is about bringing God and Christianity into the meeting. And of course, is what we explain. And in that Greece decision, they did unfortunately say that there can be prayer at city council meetings. The prayer cannot support one faith, though. So you'd have to allow either, atheists might have to be allowed to come in and give some sort of talk, humanists, things like that. But of course, that's not what they're doing here. So even, unfortunately, under that ruling that allows city council prayer, that's not even good enough for places like this, where they say, no, we need to do the Lord's Prayer because this is a Christian city council, and we want to enforce that Christian religion upon all of the members here, coming to the city council meeting.
But, you can see in the history of our species trying to organize itself and have our meetings and our governments and all that, that when you get together for an actual something more than just chatting, you want to solemnize the moment. You want to have some sort of a moment of something that makes it bigger than what it really is. And so historically, prayer was one way to do that, right? But it doesn't have to be prayer, does it, to solemnize an occasion?
Yeah, definitely not. And as we point out a lot, that having prayer being the solemnizing thing is exclusionary. And it, pushes off people who are non-religious. Which, as we talked about, is a rising demographic. So more and more, this is going to be an issue as these places continue to have these traditions like this of forcing prayer on everyone, as more and more people are not believing those religions.
Ann Gaylor, the principal co-founder of FFRF, she said, we don't need a moment of silence. What we need is a moment of bedlam. Like we do at our convention every year. We have that moment of bedlam. Some way to kind of say, okay, bang, we're starting this official meeting. It doesn't have to be a prayer to somebody else's deity, does it?
Right, and or it could have maybe just some inspirational, just something.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be religious. And in this case, it is always religious. It is always the Lord's Prayer, and that's why it was unconstitutional.
Or they could just quote the First Amendment or something, just something that we're all, something.
Right, it should be, the city council should want to unify everyone. Yeah. It's weird that they want to only unify the Christians and kind of make everyone else angry, like our complainants whose participation in the meetings was affected by this. They wanted to go to their city council meeting, and every time they went to the meeting, you just start off being angry, that this prayer is taking place and everyone's joining in, and it just feels like you're in a church when you're supposed to be at a secular city council meeting.
So that decision's over? The judge's decision, what did he say? The city has wrapped itself in one religion?
Yep. That was the district court decision. As they kind of said in the clip, it's possible they could appeal. They shouldn't. I mean, as we sort of said, unfortunately, there are ways for them to have prayer at the meeting if they want to have prayer, but that prayer needs to not be just Christian prayer, and that's what they want. So we'll see what happens. If you want to view more about this, you can go to our website, ffrf.us/Parkersburg.
So West Virginia has come up a lot here. So somewhere else in the country, what other victories have we had recently?
Yeah, so those were our two big, in-court victories. But as you know, most of our victories actually come from non-litigation. We write a letter explaining the law, and the school district does the right thing. One thing that's actually happening a lot around the country is we've had a lot of proselytizing teachers. So teachers are in their classrooms, telling students they need to believe in Jesus, trying to convert students. It's come up 2 or 3 times actually in the last couple of months. One of those places was Scottsdale, Arizona. There was a teacher in one of the classes who he had...
There's the letter.
Yeah, he delivered a message to his students saying they needed a loving relationship with our Lord and Father in heaven and to repent of their sins. He told students to go to watch a video on YouTube called 23 Minutes in Hell, which is like this propaganda video about hell. I think it's about someone who went to hell and came back or something like that. I can't recall off the top of my head. But basically he preached and proselytized in his class. He had like a image up on one of his walls that was religious. So we wrote to the school district letting them know you cannot do this. Our complainant was in the class and said, hey, my teacher's doing this. And we wrote to the school district, and unfortunately the school district has decided to do the right thing. They've made sure this isn't going to happen again. What they're going to do is review this teacher's materials, and they're going to randomly send people in to review his class to make sure he's not doing this
And he's
anymore.
been told that it's wrong, right? He's been reprimanded, basically.
Yep, and they're going to make sure that he doesn't do this again. And of course, if he does do it again, the school district's now on notice. They know that this is wrong for sure.
Yeah, so they'd be liable then.
Exactly.
Right?
It would be in a much better situation for taking some sort of lawsuit if they continue, especially now.
Is that one of the letters you wrote?
Yes. Yeah. I write, as you know, I write the majority, or in the past, I've written the majority of the letters that we do. Thousands of letters over my time here, and I think any lawyer that sent an email, they're pretty clear that I've resolved more than 1,000 victories in the time that I've been here. My past 7 years.
And what's nice about that is that we don't have to go to court.
Yeah.
We don't have to file. We don't have to do all that stuff.
Right.
The school, it's like the highway patrol. Who's stopping them from speeding unless there's somebody enforcing that? And does the driver say, "Well, I challenge the law"? You take your ticket. You take the penalties.
Exactly. I mean, really, they should view it as a service that we're doing. We're coming in and saying, "Hey, there's this teacher in your school violating the law. You should probably do something about that."
Yeah.
And luckily for us, the really bad violations, actually, school districts actually tend to clean up because they realize they're going to get sued.
Yeah, and they don't want to pay all that money in a losing lawsuit.
Exactly. And they shouldn't have to. And luckily, in some cases, like Mercer County, they were insured. But, the taxpayer shouldn't have to foot the bill when the school district decides to continue violating the law.
But don't some insurance companies, like on the second round, now that you know this is illegal and you're still doing it, wouldn't they refuse to cover the insurance in some
sometimes
cases?
that can happen, yes. And sometimes they are still covered. It varies by things, but
on the policy. Huh?
Yeah, but either way, the taxpayers, shouldn't have to pay, when school officials or any government officials decide to keep violating the law. They should just do the right thing.
And then Kansas. Wichita.
Louisiana.
Wichita.
It's Wichita. Yeah, it's OUACHITA, I think.
Oh, I thought you said Wichita. What? No, ooh, okay.
Yeah, I had to look up how to pronounce it. So they were actually doing a prayer. We got a complaint from a parent whose child was expected to deliver the prayer over the loudspeaker after or around the Pledge of Allegiance. So they do the same prayer every day. Father God, come be with us, fill our hearts with joy. You can see it on the screen. It ends in Amen. On the sheet of paper that they get before they have to present this to the school, it says student expression. So it's clearly the school district trying to get away with saying, oh, this isn't a prayer, this is student expression. That doesn't help them get out of this. I mean, this is a clear legal violation. You cannot be reciting a prayer every day over the loudspeaker in an elementary school. And we wrote to the school district, and they very quickly backed down. And we learned that I think they switched to a moment of silence is how they had resolved this. But who knows how long these kids were being forced to recite a prayer every day over the loudspeaker.
I remember in high school in Anaheim in the 60s, they did have a prayer or a solemnized thing that a student would do every morning over the loudspeaker in the whole high school. Then after the Schempp decision came down, boy, we Christian students were really mad about that. The Schempp decision came down, and they stopped it. And so they stopped an unconstitutional practice. So we Christians on campus, we felt like we were being persecuted. They took away our freedoms. And so one of the teachers and I, we formed like a Bible study club to sort of fight back, But I remember that. They used to pray, and I never thought there was a problem. I thought it was just a part of life.
Yeah, you've certainly got an interesting perspective, having been there as the Christian victim of the secularization of the schools, and then now obviously able to recognize that that's the appropriate thing to do. But you're right. When you are so used to being privileged, which has happened a lot with Christianity in our country because of just, that we have a majority of Christians. When those privileges are taken away, it does feel like, you're losing rights, when in reality, you should have never had that in the first place. It's not that the right to deliver a prayer over the loudspeaker was taken away. It should have never existed in the first place.
Yeah. And we could still pray, personally, and we could still go to church, and we could still have our religion. It's just that we felt like something was broken now that used to be so part of our society.
I mean, and that ties in, that's what we've been dealing with here at FFRF a lot in the past week. Multiple politicians have come out and said that, taking God or prayer out of our schools is why the terrible shooting in Uvalde was able to happen. They're saying, if we still had prayer in school,
this wouldn't
have happened, which of course is ridiculous. It's not true. So yeah, that's not an uncommon thing for.
So what happened in Wichita?
Yeah. So like I said, we wrote to the school. We got a response from the
Is that it there? The superintendent?
Yeah, this was actually the response from Scottsdale.
That's Scottsdale.
Yeah, that was just letting us know that the teacher was, would randomly be observed and things like that. I guess we don't have a thing of our Wichita because it was the superintendent had made a statement to the news as soon as this hit the news saying we stopped this immediately because I think they realized how blatantly unconstitutional it is to be having young elementary school children, being forced to recite this prayer over the loudspeaker every day.
So now they're going to do a moment of bedlam, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Or they should, yeah.
Or something else. Well, congratulations. I mean, over the months and over the years, we report on your guys, you attorneys' victories outside of court, and so some of the letters are they happen so often. You have template letters for different issues, right? Yeah,
we have some templates, and oftentimes, I mean, it's very rare now. written thousands and thousands of letters over that's been my primary duty here for the past 7 years. Even as an intern, I was, drafting letters for other attorneys. And it's, a couple times a year you get something shocking that somehow, I've never seen this before. They do come up with new ways to violate the law. But for the most part, yeah, we're often, whatever we learn about, we've dealt with it before. And I can go, oh, I remember when we did it 3 years ago, I wrote a letter on this, and I can go back to that letter, and utilize it to.
Could you estimate how many template letters we have?
Maybe, honestly, probably like 30, 40 maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not actually that many. I mean, because like I said, we also utilize previous letters, but we get, 4,000 or 5,000 complaints a year, and we try to resolve those.
So I'm getting the iPad here so we can see if there's any questions.
See if there's some questions.
It says today's questions, but I don't see. I do a refresh, right? There we go.
All right.
Anything else before we go to questions?
No, I like I said, it's my 5-year anniversary, and it's been amazing. Hopefully, many, many more years. I absolutely love this place. I hope everyone supports us, and we're gonna keep fighting. Obviously, we've had these victories, but we know that the courts, particularly the Supreme Court, is not inclined to support the Establishment Clause right now, but we're going to keep fighting, and we're going to...
Of course, we know that the main reason members join the Freedom from Religion Foundation is because of what you're doing.
Yeah.
We can get together and talk, but our members want action. They want to see change. Yep. They want to see real, in the courts or outside of the courts, as you say. They want to see a difference being made. So
yeah, and we take... oftentimes we'll be writing letters within a week. If it's a really bad violation, Maddie will get our intake attorney. She'll get it to me, say, hey, this is really bad. And, within a day or two, we can have a letter out. We can be telling the school they need to stop. We can be getting it to the press to make sure that it's getting the attention it needs. Just stuff, even like other great civil rights groups, the ACLU, you're not going to get that kind of quick response from them,
Well, like some students contacts us and says, hey, they're going to say a prayer at my graduation on Tuesday. Yep. Can you get a letter out?
We'll get a letter out beforehand and
wow.
let the school know that.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks. So let's see what we got for questions. This is somebody named Sean Turley who's commenting. I am from Mercer. You mean Mercer, the school in Mercer County?
Mercer County, probably.
I am from Mercer and was forced by my mom to attend the Bible in the schools. I'm so thankful for Elizabeth Deal and the FFRF. It was so awful watching the Jewish kids get up to leave as the class started, only to be ridiculed later in the day by classmates. Well, Sean, that's a great comment. Thanks for watching, and you were on the ground. You saw what was happening there.
Yeah, that's a great point. This isn't a thing that just affects atheists and non-believers. Even in our Cabo County case, one of the families is Jewish. This basically any non-Christian group is going to be hurt when Christianity is being forced on everyone. So it is a broader issue for everyone, and it's just not something that should be taking place in our public schools, of course. And we're going to do everything we can to kick it out.
So I wonder if you would mind, Sean, if we reprinted this comment in our newspaper. Maybe you can send us an email and let us know, because that's a good comment that you made. So here's another comment from Mark Largent. They want God, prayer, and the Bible in schools and meetings until the Jehovah's Witness and Mormons show up. Right?
Yeah, I mean, we get that a lot. I mean, it's the same thing. It's a lot of what like the Satanic Temple does, is they will, the places that will have forums like this where they say, oh, well, we're going to have prayer. Like I said, for it to be permissible prayer in like a city council, they really need to include prayer from everyone. It can't just be Christian prayer. And so that's where you get like a group like the Satanic Temple or other groups coming in. And then, of course, when someone is praying a prayer you don't agree with, or praying to a God you don't believe in, suddenly the Christians understand, oh, maybe this isn't like such a good idea after all, because we said we wanted prayer, but we meant Christian prayer. Yeah. So it's a way, to exclude people.
Can an atheist pray?
Yeah, I mean, we don't pray, but, we have, like you said, we can have a similar solemnizing, humanists, you could deliver a message, atheists can deliver a message. that sort of fits the same vein.
Well, because the word pray just means to beseech. Mm-hmm. You can pray the court. You can pray the king, not necessarily praying to some transcendent deity up there.
Yeah, I mean, and there's arguments about that in various court cases and things where people are saying, well, we require that the prayer be to a higher power, and so atheists can't pray to a higher power, and so that, to try to, they do whatever they can to exclude it. I'm sure at some point they're going to try to come up with some excuse for why the Satanic Temple is not allowed to pray and things like that. Because like I said, it's not really about prayer, it's about imposing Christianity onto everyone.
Well, there's that old expression, pray tell. You don't mean you're actually praying, you're just, I'm beseeching you to tell me something.
Right.
So Joe Hickey, he asks about the Mercer case. It sounds like the school board could simply resume the class at any time, and this plaintiff will have no standing to pursue the matter further. Am I understanding that correctly?
No. That's why we continue to fight the case. We settled the case, which is a legal agreement between us and the school that these classes won't come back. So, could they create potentially different classes or something along those lines? That's possible. But, these classes in the form that it was taking would not come back. And, especially now, it's been 5 years since they held the classes. The teachers are gone. The Bible teachers who had a degree in Bible, by the way, are gone. And, I'm not worried about them coming back.
But what if they did? They would be violating a court order?
If this specific class came back, they would be violating the agreement. There would be action that could be taken on that. And if they brought back some other form or, tried to in some way, bring the Bible back into the schools, we obviously would, start talking with locals and see what we can do to,
So I wonder if somebody knows if the morality of the students has dropped in those 5 years since they took religion out of the schools. Maybe it's gone up,
Yeah, no, well, we've been saying this in a lot of our letters about where the politicians are complaining about prayer being taken out of schools, that studies do show the more secular the nation, the less violence that they have. And that also applies to the states as well. We found the states with more religiosity actually have more violence and more crime. And the less religious states have less crime and less violence.
So we're doing society a favor, Bay.
Yeah, no, it's it all kind of comes together, but no, we should definitely,
Okay, here's a question from Patricia Lynn Riley. Have you had success with prayer breakfasts that are promoted by the local government?
Yeah, we've had some. We do complain about those a lot. I know we have stopped prayer breakfasts before. They're tough because they kind of get run by, it's a weird situation. It'll be run sort of by a pseudo, very often it's not the city itself putting them on. It'll be put on by sort of a committee or some outside group, and they'll invite the mayor to come. But then the problem is, they'll call it like the mayor's prayer breakfast, which gives a strong indication that this is a city-sponsored event, and that's sort of what we target. We have stopped those in the past.
Or if the mayor sends out the invitation or something.
Right, or uses city resources, like things like that is all inappropriate for them to hold it.
So if some private group wants to have a prayer breakfast and invites the mayor, is there anything stopping the mayor from just showing up?
No, I mean, obviously the issue comes in what capacity are you there? The mayors can go to churches. I mean, the president can go to church. I mean, there's obviously we don't stop people from having it in their personal lives. It's just when they take that office. So, are they going and saying, I, the mayor, as mayor, am, officially holding this event? And that's really the crux of the issue, is a mayor's prayer breakfast, a city event or not? And so, if it's not a city event, not sponsored by the city, they're not endorsing it, paying money, then mayor can show up, to whatever event they want.
I remember some years ago we sued Texas Governor Rick Perry for being involved with this big prayer rally that was happening at the stadium. And after we sued, the mayor did show up, but he was simply introduced as, now let's hear from Rick Perry of Austin, Texas. They didn't say from the mayor. So we think that our complaint had some effect, that he was actually not there in his official capacity,
Yep, and that's what's important. I mean, government officials are free to do what they want in their personal lives. They just can't bring that office, use that government power, it's all about the government separation between church and state, not an individual. Individuals can have their own religious views.
So we have had some success in what? Getting them to drop it from their webpage?
Yeah, various ways. Yeah, the city stopped sponsoring it or things like that.
Well, that's cool. Okay, a lot of questions today. Mitchell Noland asks about Parkersburg. I'm assuming they didn't allow any other faith or perspective to speak at the meetings?
Yeah, of course not. Like I said, what they were doing is they only did the Lord's Prayer. So it's not even like a Christian prayer. It is just the Lord's Prayer wrote verbatim every meeting with everyone standing up. So there was no opportunity for anyone else to deliver.
So, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. From the book of Matthew, basically.
Yep, exactly, from the Bible, yep.
Okay. So it looks like one more question here. Anne, how do you say this name? Bendixex? Bendixex. Anne says, or asks, what have been the most surprising or shocking violations that come to your mind?
Oh, geez. I think right now, like I talked about earlier, the proselytizing teachers is really shocking to me. And in particular, we've been dealing with one where this teacher pulled a student out of class. It was a Wiccan student. The teacher pulled her out of class and tried to convert them to Christianity during the school day.
In the hallway, like, right? Or
Yep, yeah, I presume it was in the hallway, yeah. So what had happened was the student had, the teacher had a prayer room. There's a biology teacher with a prayer room in her room. The student put up a Wiccan prayer, a prayer to, the gods and goddesses about their life. When the teacher found out this student was a Wiccan, pulled them out of class and tried to convert them. The school district's been investigating that, and hopefully.
So you wrote a letter about it?
Yes, I think that was in Oklahoma. I'm trying to remember the school district right now.
Yeah, I think I remember that. I think we talked about that on the radio. So, that's just what's the word for that? It's ineptness. The teacher is a bad teacher.
Yeah, in that case, the teacher is a Christian nationalist. She wrote a blog about how teachers should be proselytizing to students. She said, don't be afraid to get fired, because what matters more, your pension and all that stuff, or, like doing the Lord's work. Lots of talking about teachers being covered in Jesus' blood. She's completely, we're waiting to see what the school district says about that, but I don't believe that she should be a teacher anymore.
So she can get a job at a Christian school.
Yeah. Exactly.
Where that's fine, but not in.
Yeah, if your life is all about Christianity, there's plenty of churches and things I'm sure that would hire you, private religious schools. You just shouldn't be a public school teacher.
Or she could stand on the sidewalk with the sandwich board. She could do something like that. But
exactly, and that's what we say in all of our letters about these proselytizing teachers. It's like, if they can't do their secular job as a teacher, like if their religion is more important than their job as a teacher, then they need to not do it. There's so many religious teachers who understand the rules. They say, they may be a Christian, but when they, go into the school, they know, I'm not here as a Christian. I'm here as a teacher, and I need to teach everyone. I need to care about everyone, and I need to treat everyone equally, regardless of what their views are, and not be trying to push my religion onto students. But more and more, I guess that's probably the most egregious thing we see, these teachers just crossing the line. And trying to use their position as teachers to push their religion on students. It's unfortunate.
Well, that might be the last question. Let me double check here. Thanks, Lauren, for setting this up. Lauren Searing. That's the last question, Lauren says. Well, thank you, Chris, and congratulations not only on the legal victories, but on your own personal life victory.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on and giving me a chance to talk about that, brag about our victories, and brag about the work that the legal staff does.
Yeah. So if any of the members are in Madison, Wisconsin, you're welcome to come into the second floor legal wing and watch them all busy at their computers and reading legal briefs and writing and talking. It's a pretty active floor, and this is why the Freedom from Religion Foundation exists. So thank you. So that's the show for today. We also have a TV show called Free Thought Matters. which is now going on summer break, and it'll be back in the fall. But you can go online and watch all of the 160 plus shows. I think it's 165 shows now. Go to FFRF's YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and look for Freedom from Religion Foundation, and then look for the playlist that says Free Thought Matters on that channel. And then you can watch interviews with members of Congress, a number of members of Congress that we've talked with, artists and musicians and activists and authors and scientists and philosophers, attorneys, and much more, all from a free thought point of view. If you missed last week's show, which was with the renowned, internationally famous sculptor Zenas Roudakis, you can watch that right there on FFRF's YouTube Free Thought Matters playlist.
Yeah, this week on Free Thought Radio, in light of the recent horrible mass shooting that we touched on, you and Annie Laurie are going to be talking about the effectiveness of thoughts and prayers. If you want more information about the Freedom from Religion Foundation, check out our website at ffrf.org. Thank you for watching FFRF's Ask an Atheist.